Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and I am back today with my 1001 book countdown. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the 1001 book countdown, it's basically like Friday Reads, but features books off of my 1001 books you must read before you die list. If you would like to, I will leave a card up here where you can go check out my BookTube Newbie Part 2 video and listen to me talk about the concept in a lot of detail. But for today, we're going to go ahead and put up the numbers, and I promise to try and do a better job this week. My goodness. So the first number is 983, and then the bottom number is 27, which is my 2021 number. So I am going to talk about the books in reverse order today because the first book is actually the one that I really connected with and want to spend quite a bit more time on. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is actually Transit by Anna Seghers. I did look up and try and pronounce that name correctly. This is how Wikipedia has it.
Anna Seghers.
One other thing that I really want to talk about with this author is there's actually an Anna Seghers Prize, which I had seen referenced into another book and was curious what that was. And what she actually has done is set it up so that any revenues that are made from her books actually go to new and aspiring authors. And I thought that was really amazing. It makes me want to read more by her and more by the people that have been awarded the prize, one of which is actually Julian Fuchs, who I just read a book this last week by him, and he has another one coming out, I believe it's called Occupation, that I'm hoping to pick up that I think should be really interesting as well. The book is actually translated from German and was written in the 1940s, and that is actually really important when you start to learn about what the story is actually about. It follows a character who initially escapes from a concentration camp and is making his way to Marseille and is trying to figure out how to get a visa to exit the country. That is a very high-level synopsis. On the way, he meets a wide variety of different characters, one of whom gives him a letter to try and give to a character whose name is Wiley. And Wiley is actually located in Paris, and so the main character travels to Paris to try and deliver this letter. With that letter, he ends up going to Marseille to try and track down the character's wife in order to give her all of the information she would actually need to get a visa. And what the book actually talks about is the complexities of getting a visa, how hard it is to be a refugee, how difficult it is to work your way through all of the bureaucracy to try and get what you need to be able to escape. This is all occurring as the Germans are following them, basically as this force is sitting there. They just don't know when they will actually arrive. So you get all of this time of the character, one, trying to track down someone's wife to give her what she needs to be able to exit the country, as well as get the documents he needs to either be able to stay in Marseille or be able to exit. It's really fascinating to me when you read through part of it because he really just wanted to stay in Marseille, but they wouldn't let him stay in Marseille unless he had plans to leave Marseille. So he actually had to go and get a visa that said he was planning on leaving so that he could stay longer in Marseille. I can't imagine what this process would be like. It does bring a very big spotlight onto the process. What makes it even more fascinating is the author actually traveled to Marseille in the 1940s, I believe 1930s, and escaped and went to Mexico City ahead of the German, who was actually Jewish, and so she must have really experienced a lot of what this was like and did an excellent job of building up what people must have felt like, having long lines and people pushing up against barricades and lots of uncertainty and lots of confusion. The main character in this particular one that is doing all of the visa paperwork and trying to get everything arranged adds to the confusion by basically assuming Wiley's personality and taking over his visa, which causes more confusion with Wiley's wife, who hears through the grapevine that he is there and is frantically trying to find him and keeps running into Seidel's character, not realizing that he's pretending to be Wiley all along. And so there's a lot of confusion, a lot of misinterpretations from the main characters that adds to the story, and the Seidel's character really wants to be with the wife and is doing everything he can to try and be with her. Ultimately, I don't want to tell you what actually happens to them because I don't want to spoil the end of the book for you. But it is one that I was very, very surprised by this book. I was ultimately not expecting this. I had checked this out once before and let it go back to the library. And now I'm not 100% sure why. Because the story definitely drew me in and the characters drew me in and their struggles drew me in. And so I was, like I said, very, very surprised. I thought the writing was very good. There's only one section of the book that really didn't work for me, which was about the last third, unfortunately, which is ultimately why I gave it 4 stars instead of 5. It was because the last part of the book got very, very repetitive of them waiting in the pizza shop, going to the visas, waiting in the pizza shop, going to visas. And in one way, I think the author was trying to get that repetitive nature in there to show just how hard and repetitive that process was. And in the other way, I was just bored listening to it. So I imagine the characters are probably also very bored. Characters or the people actually going through this were incredibly bored going through everything and trying to get this arranged while having the pressure of that invading force behind them. So yeah, it's a very interesting story. Like I said, made more interesting by Anna Seghers' actual history. And there is one quote that I want to share with you because I think it's very appropriate for BookTube one. And it says, "I wasn't tired at all. What was I going to do? Read? That's what I used to do on free evenings like this. Never again. I felt that old boyhood reluctance to reading a book, that reaction against invented stories about a life that wasn't real. If something had to be invented, if this cobbled together life we were living was too wretched, then I wanted to be the inventor of another life, but not on paper." So I love when I'm reading a book and there's a reference to reading in it. I would really recommend this one, especially if you're interested in how the visa processes work. And this was written, 80 years ago now and published during World War II, which makes it even more fascinating. But the bureaucracy that was there 80 years ago, has not gotten better today, even though maybe now it's all digitized and not on pieces of paper that you have to get stamped from visa office to visa office. So yeah, very, very good book. I highly, highly recommend it. And with that though, we go from 983 to 982, and it is on my 2021 list. So we're going from 27 to 26. Yay! All right, moving on. Second book for this week is actually one that I did a buddy read with David Wiley on. And if you would like to watch his video on it, I will leave a link in my description so you can check out what he had to say. It's part of his Friday reads for this week. And that book is Ian Fleming's Casino Royale. This is actually the first book in the James Bond series, and it is the book that launched the franchise, the phenomena that is James Bond. And, the book was exactly as I would expect it to be. It is one that full of male misogyny and chauvinism and spies and intrigue and betrayal and double crosses, and it is one that it is a fun read. It is one, there's no real surprises in this. I guess the only real surprise is that the misogyny took about a third of the book to actually show up, in that James Bond called the Vespa character a bitch, and then later in the book said that she should be home and not work at home and not be out here causing all these problems and things like that. But it does follow the characters. If you've watched the film adaptation, it absolutely follows the same characters, including Le Chiffre, who is the main villain in the 90% of the book, which weirdly it switches at the last, maybe the last quarter or so. But Le Chiffre, if you've seen the movie, it starts with a couple of different scenarios that aren't actually in the book. This starts in the casino with James Bond following Le Chiffre and trying to defeat him at playing cards. In the movie, it is poker. In the book, it is baccarat. So ultimately, he's trying to defeat Le Chiffre. They don't really go into a lot as far as why he needs the money. In the movie, they definitely do that, but in the book, not so much. Like I said, it didn't surprise me at all. It wasn't like I read the book and went, wow, I never expected that twist and turn in there. And it was okay, is what I would say. Am I going to read more James Bond books? Probably not. It's not necessarily my favorite franchise, though I will certainly watch more of the movies, especially if they have Daniel Craig. But in the book, yeah, they don't really do any kind of flip in here. I do like the Moneypenny character in here. She doesn't show up much in this. She only shows up in one short scene. And then the big complaint or the big criticism I have of the book, and it's the same actually in the movie, is the last quarter of it is Lashif is actually already dead, and we have been introduced in the movie, I think it's the Spectre, as far as Spectre goes, and in the book it is Smarsh, I think is what it was, so it's a slightly different name, which is a little odd name, but and then the last part of it is James Bond recovering from the torture that he had at the hands of Lashif, and then his relationship with Vespa. And it did drag a little bit, and her betrayal, ultimate betrayal in that, it didn't ring very true. They actually did a much better job in the movie than they did in the book, which I think is really fascinating, more adapted maybe to today's audiences rather than this book that was written in the 50s, the early 50s, I believe, 1953, if I remember correctly. Yes, 1953. But if you want a fun one and you are curious about the books and you like the movies, this might be a great book for you. For me, I just put it at the 3-star mark. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't my favorite. But yeah, that's Casino Royale. And, you know, who doesn't like a movie adaptation with Daniel Craig in it? So, but with that, we will go from 982 to 981. And it is on my 2021 list. So we're going from 26 to 25. And this officially marks my 20th book, if you can believe that, on my 1001 book countdown. I am unbelievably pleased because I only started this process about 2.5 months ago, and that is phenomenal progress. So yay! Very excited. I'm always so excited. And with that, as always, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, if you've read either of these books, if you're going to pick up either of these books. And with that, until next time, everyone, thanks. Bye.